Hey guys, lepedaler back with another video. Today we're going to be comparing a Giant TCR that has disc brakes to a Giant TCR that has a rim brake. So that is a question I usually get quite often, and I thought it was the perfect time to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on the subject matter. So let's get right into this video. Before I continue, I'd kindly ask if you guys drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps with the overall growth of the channel and me putting out more content like this. I really hope to be bringing out better content in the not so distant future with the real bikes, which would be obviously better content for you guys. So if you guys could do that, it'd be greatly appreciated. So I'm currently on the Giant website, and we're going to be comparing the 2021 TCR Advanced Pro 1 disc to the 2021 TCR Advanced Pro 1 rim brake. So these are both bikes in the same class. They both have full Ultegra. The only differences is one is disc and the other one is rim brake. Both of these have carbon fiber frames and forks. They both have power meters and they both have carbon rims. So if you guys are not familiar with how disc brakes work and rim brakes work, I will give you guys a quick summary. So a disc brake works basically you have a rotor that's attached to the wheel and brake calipers that push pistons inside that actually have brake pads, and that stops the rotor from spinning, which obviously makes your wheel stop spinning. Where on a rim brake bike, you have brake calipers that have brake pads inside of them, and when they're pushed, they actually act on the braking surface of the actual wheel, slowing down the wheel. So it's a different system, and it's been decided as of right now that disc brake bikes are a lot more better in terms of braking. I can totally agree with that, especially in the wet conditions. So in terms of braking and modulation and pure performance, disc brake bikes definitely win. But the one thing I always like to stress, especially with the conservation of rim brakes, is that not only in cycling, but specifically road cycling, you don't do a lot of braking. And what I mean by that is if you are a good rider with good skills, you shouldn't have to brake that much because you can gauge your speed and gauge your efforts, and you're only really shaving off speed. You're never doing any hard brakes like you would in mountain biking or cyclocross. So that is why you still see pro riders in the pro peloton, if given the choice, like Team Ineos, they still choose to use rim brakes. Now, I've made videos on my channel of this topic, so I can link it here if you guys want to watch a full video where I explain the differences. But, just so you guys know, disc brakes do have better overall braking performance, but I still have a rim brake road bike, a TCR actually, so I don't really find a problem with braking, especially if it's at high speeds, low speeds, cornering. Rim brakes still perform very well. So something really important to note is the tire clearances and what you can actually run in terms of tire sizes. And on the disc brake TCR in 2020, the max size was a 28mm tire, and now for 2021, it's a 33mm tire. And that is so nice because gravel and off-roading in terms of exploration is getting really popular. So you could probably squeeze a 35mm if needed, I think. But even with a 32mm, you'd be more than fine doing some light gravel. I wouldn't say anything crazy that you might need a 42mm for, but some light gravel is really nice. And now your TCR becomes an all-around adventure bike where you don't really feel limited as you would have maybe on the 28 or even the 25mm. And on the rim brake, in 2020, the max size was a 25mm, and now for 2021, it's a 28mm. So if you do decide to go for a rim brake bike, you can put on a wider tire and get not only comfort, but maybe do a little bit of off-road stuff, but I still wouldn't suggest it. I would say the best minimum tire size to do anything off-road or gravel-ish would be around 32mm. So just keep that in note. I'm not saying that I haven't done it ever with a 28mm, it's just not as comfortable or as enjoyable. Now, something that everyone likes to know is what are the weight differences between each bike. So the difference is on the disc brake bike, the average weight for this model is 7.8 kilograms, and on the rim brake, it is 7.1 kilograms. So you're looking at a difference of 0.7 kilograms, which can be quite significant if you do a lot of climbing. And that's why a lot of people that are really focused on KOM chasing or just having a light bike to begin with, might go for the rim brake bike just because they don't want to be paying for extra weight that they might not need, especially if their braking skill is adequate enough. You don't need the disc brakes because you don't need that extra braking performance. And now that's what we're going to talk into is what is the big difference and which one would you buy depending on what type of riding. As you guys can see, the disc brake TCR goes for $4,300, and with the same parts and same componentry, in rim brake, it actually goes for $3,500. So that's a difference of $800. And now this what gets me into my next point. a lot of people that are not only on a budget but trying to get the best performance and might not need the extra braking performance that disc brakes offer, to save $800 and have a lighter bike by 0.7 kilograms is super important for some riders, especially racers, where budget is one thing, and on top of that they want a light bike and they don't really need the extra performance of disc brakes. So now this gets into my final conclusions and final thoughts. I feel like if you guys want a bike that can do everything and really go off-road in terms of light gravel, having a bike that has disc brakes is super amazing, because you won't get anything clogged up. In rim brakes, if you guys aren't familiar, dirt can easily, or mud, depending on what terrain you're in, can really get stuck in there. So in terms of braking performance, if you do plan on doing some light backcountry roads, having a disc brake TCR is super nice, because you can run a 32 millimeter, 33 millimeter tire, and that basically gives you the equivalence of like a cyclocross tire, which I would say, and I've ridden with 33. Now I have 42 millimeters on my gravel / cyclocross bike. So that's a little bit more comfort, a little bit more gravel specific. But when I had my old cyclocross bike, I have 33 millimeter tires, and I could do a lot of stuff. I could do some single track. So if you have a TCR and maybe have a different wheel set, or maybe have an all around tire that's best of both worlds, you're not limited. You can do some, if you find gravel on your route, or if you guys want to do a little bit of single track, like you can do that no problem. Where on a rim brake bike, if you are running 25 and even 28, it might not be the best decision. Now, what brings me back into disc brake, where you might not want the disc brake, is for weight. So you're paying an additional $800 for disc brake performance, for that extra braking performance, but you're paying not only for the weight, but maybe for something that you don't need. So if you are a really good rider, or just someone that knows how to brake properly, and you have lots of years on the bike, or you're just very confident, and have the skills, you don't need disc brakes that have better modulation, especially during the rain. It really depends, if you ride in the rain. So if you really don't, and I would say that works for me, where I don't really live in an area that's really wet and I have pretty good braking abilities, I wouldn't get a disc brake bike specifically for that reason. And now this is the funny thing, is that the $800 difference for some people is that if you get a rim brake bike, and say this is your upgrading your bike, that $800 can go a long way for a lot of people. So that can be brand new shoes, and you can get a pretty good pair of carbon shoes for like $250, and you can get a cycling computer for $200. So we're only at like $450, give or take, and that's if you go with the rim brake bike. And you could probably get a new helmet. So you could easily upgrade 3 components that you use on the bike every single day if you really don't need that braking performance and you want to save some weight, which I think is huge, especially if you're on a budget. Now, for me personally, like I know you guys always ask this too, is like, what would I go for? I think, for me, I would probably go with the disc brake bike, because I think in the not so distant future, I would like to have maybe one primary bike that can do everything. So I don't really have to have a dedicated gravel bike and a dedicated road bike. I'd kind of like one bike that could do both. So I really don't have to, swap things out, make sure 2 bikes are running optimal. I just have to focus on one. So I think that's where I would probably go for the disc brake bike. But in terms of right now, the reason why I personally have a rim brake TCR is because the price was a no-brainer. Why would I pay more if I don't need disc brakes? And I was already in the mindset of getting a dedicated gravel bike, so I didn't need to kill 2 birds with one stone at the moment. So, I think the rim brake bike TCR is probably the best for people that are on a budget and want to spend that extra money savings, maybe just pocket it or upgrade their componentry, and they want to save on weight. And I would say the disc brake TCR is for someone that wants wider tire, they want extra braking performance, and that's the main difference, is just braking performance. You're paying extra for optimal modulation. That about wraps it up for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. As I said at the beginning of this video, the more support I get on this channel, the better the content will be in the not so distant future. So having you guys back this channel up really helps with me putting out more content in the future. And other than that, until the next one, keep on pedaling.